In early 1981, before Michael Jackson released Thriller and while Queen were dominating the US with Another One Bites the Dust, the king of pop and the most powerful voice in rock agreed to work together. They planned to record 3 songs. One of them was called Victory, a joint creation between 2 of the most iconic artists of the 80s. Some say the project fell apart because of a chimpanzee. Others blame a llama, drugs, or personal clashes. This is the story of the duet that almost happened between 2 of the greatest voices in history. The idea began in 1981. Michael Jackson was a fan of Queen, and especially of Freddie Mercury. He had been attending their concerts, getting to know the band, and at that time, Queen had broken through in America with Another One Bites the Dust, a song Michael Jackson loved and personally insisted they release as a single. The band wasn't fully convinced at first. You can watch the full story on our dedicated video right here on the channel. After their friendship developed, Michael told Freddie he wanted to record a song together, but their schedules kept getting in the way. Michael was touring, Freddie was touring, years passed, until finally, in 1983, they found one day to meet.
We actually only spent 8 hours. We arrived in the afternoon and we left in the evening.
They didn't meet at a major recording studio. Instead, Freddie and his assistant Peter Freestone went to Michael's home in Encino, California, where his mother also lived.
And it was just the 3 of you in the studio, is that right? So you were with him in
There
Michael
were
Jackson's
actually
studio?
4 of us in the studio because there was the tape operator.
Yes.
But that was it.
Peter, who was there that day, is our most reliable source for what actually happened. His account differs significantly from some of the stories we've heard over the years. Before entering the studio, Michael gave them a tour of the house, including the outdoor area where he kept some of his animals. At one point, a llama spit on Freddie Mercury.
Los Angeles, it was a beautiful day. White shirt, white jeans, white trainers. But it had been raining a few days before. And Michael said, look, before we go in, I'll take you around the animals that I have. And we were walking around and I could see Freddie's face just getting more and more annoyed. And I thought, but what's happened? Nothing, I can't. And I looked down and the shoes were brown and the bottom of the white jeans were going brown because of the mud that we were going through. But that's where the llamas come in because he had 2 llamas and one of them spat at Freddie.
This incident was later turned into a more dramatic story. In the documentary, The Great Pretender, Queen's manager Jim Beach recalls that Michael kept bringing a llama into the studio and that Freddie even called him, saying, "You've got to get me out of here."
They got on well, except for the fact that I suddenly got a call from Freddie saying, "Miami dear, can you get on over here because you've got to get me out of the studio?" I said, "Well, what is the problem?" He said, "I'm recording with a llama." He said, "Michael's bringing his pet llama into the studio every day and I'm really not used to recording with a llama and I've had enough and I want to get out."
But Freestone, who was actually there, says that's not true. The llama was never inside the studio. They were only there for one single afternoon, about 8 hours total. So was Jim Beach exaggerating? Possibly. Sometimes stories evolve in the retelling. That day the plan was simple. Record 3 songs, one written by Michael, one by Freddie, and one co-written together. Michael played them a song called State of Shock. It was nearly finished, only vocals were missing. Freddie recorded his part on the spot, and it worked beautifully. The plan was for him to return another day for the final mix, but he never had the time. So in the end, it was Mick Jagger who replaced him on the released version.
Michael called me up and said, "Look, I want to finish a song. I want it on the Jackson's album." And I said, "I can't come over because I'm in Munich." And he said, "Well, is it okay if Mick does it?" So I said, "Fine, you know. Songs are songs. I mean, as long as our friendship carries on, we can write all kinds of songs."
Just before Freddie laid down his vocals for State of Shock, there's a curious detail most fans don't know.
This song that this 12-year-old kid came up with the title, State of Shock. And I said, "Look, write some lyrics." I said, "That's a nice time." So he wrote some lyrics and ran them. Then I put the music to it with guitars and stuff. And I put the melody to the vocal. I always wanted to do something like that.
Because of this, For years, many believed that the well-known guitarist Randy Hansen had co-written the song.
A lot of people think I wrote this song called State of Shock.
Yeah.
And BMI started sending me checks for it. And I never wrote the song.
They have you listed as the writer.
Yeah, I know. It's still listed that I wrote it, but I didn't write it.
In reality, he had nothing to do with it, yet still received royalty checks by mistake. Next came Freddie's song, There Must Be More to Life Than This. He had already been working on it with Queen, but the band couldn't quite finish it, so Freddie brought it to Michael. They recorded a raw take, Freddie on piano, Michael improvising lyrics and melodies.
He was writing at that point, there must be more to life than this. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it wasn't finished or anything. And so what Freddie did, he gave Michael the words that he'd written so far, and he came to the end of the words. And there is a tape somewhere where you hear Freddie just saying, ad-lib, ad-lib. And Michael does. He just carries on with words coming out of his head.
Ad-lib. Romance in a world without children.
Freddie originally intended to include the duet on his first solo album alongside other guest appearances, but time and logistics made that impossible. The song was eventually released solo on Mr. Bad Guy in 1985. Years later, Queen would revisit the track after Freddie's death.
We had the track, Freddie had brought this song in, we played around with it, recorded a backing track for it, but we thought, needs a little bit more work, whatever, so it was put to one side. One evening, Freddie's out with Michael Jackson, I think they're at Michael's house and he has a little studio there, and they go in and they say, oh, let's just try this, see what happens, and Michael's finding his way with the song, you can tell by listening to the outtakes. But what happened was we were able to find the multi-tracks, firstly for the Queen sessions, and secondly for the sessions that the very informal sessions that Freddie did with Michael. So we were able to bring them together, get them all out, sort them all out, and with Pro Tools, stick them together.
Using the original Queen studio sessions and Michael's vocals from that day in Encino, they created a new mix, released in 2014, produced by William Orbit. The third song was supposed to be a co-written track. Its working title, Victory.
They decided they wanted to do a track from the beginning together. And it had the sort of working name of Victory.
We wrote a song together called Victory. We haven't finished it at all, and I hear that Jackson's new album is called Victory, but I don't think the song's on it. And, so he's just used the title. I'll kill him if he used the song without me.
The thing is, there was only the tape operator there. So the way Freddie recorded, he would go into the studio, he would have an idea in his head. But he would then get Roger to play a 5-minute bass drum track, just for 5 minutes. And then Freddie would create the song around it. And of course there was no drummer, there was nothing. So Freddie explained this to Michael, and Michael was, okay, come with me, come. He took us out of the studio, down a corridor, and at the end there was this wooden door. And we came to a toilet. You open the door, and there's a microphone and everything set up in there, because for Michael, it was the best sound for vocal recordings. The best vocals I do are done in this room because of the acoustic in here, the tiles and everything. It's incredible. And he says, okay, I've got an idea for this drum. If you have to have a drum, we'll have a drum. He says, well, now what I can do, I will just sort of keep banging the door. And Freddie just looked, he says, Phoebe, do it. So I had to bang this toilet door for 5 minutes, which was the initial drum beat for this third song that they never really did a lot of work on. So somewhere in the Jackson archives, there's this track of me banging a toilet door for 5 minutes.
Yes, Victory was one of the songs, but he wanted to use the title for the Jackson thing, but the song is still there, and it's probably just waiting until the two of us get together and finish it. It's very, very difficult when two different musicians trying to get together. I mean, he has to do his stuff, and it's just that when I was spending some time in LA and we're friends, he said, "Oh, why don't we try something?" So I mean, one day it'll probably be finished.
According to Peter Freestone, a 5-minute recording of someone banging a bathroom door, possibly still sitting in the Jackson archives, is all that remains of Victory. There were no lyrics, no real structure. The idea faded. Still, Michael liked the name and reused it the following year as the title of the Jacksons' 15th studio album. The collaborations between Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson were full of promise, but ultimately unfinished. Not because of feuds, animals, or chaos.
All of this about they hated each other, Michael wouldn't talk to Freddie because of drugs, it's rubbish.
Two of the busiest and most brilliant minds in music simply didn't have the time. And maybe that's the real tragedy of Victory. A song born between two legends, lost in the whirlwind of their genius. Thanks for watching Behind the Track. If you want to dive deeper into how Michael helped shape Queen's biggest US hit, check out our video on Another One Bites the Dust next.